All right, good morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you for attending the Undergraduate International Students webinar. We are going to get started here in just a moment as we let all of the participants enter the room. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them into the Q&A and we will get to them as we can. All right, so as people continue to come in, we're going to volley those questions that you enter into the Q&A. But before we begin today with our question and answer period, I'm going to introduce Dr. Belkys Torres, who's the Executive Director for Global Engagement for the University Center for International Studies, to talk to you a little bit about why we're here today.
Thank you, Katie. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you today. We are so excited to have this opportunity to talk with you and make sure that we can address questions and concerns that have come up based on the information that you have been receiving from us via email. As you know, we are living in pretty uncertain times. The global pandemic is continuing to be a reality in the way that we lead our daily lives professionally and personally. And the University of Pittsburgh has been working very hard over the past few months to think very carefully about the ways in which we can continue to advance our mission of teaching, research, and service, while also maintaining the health and safety of our entire community. So I wanted to talk with you very quickly about our resilience framework. This is basically the plan that the university has developed to ensure that we have reinvented the way in which we operate to keep everyone in our community safe. We are in the process right now as an entire university across all of our campuses, planning for a fall semester that prioritizes students' academic success and the opportunity for students who would like to come to campus to do that in a way that is healthy and safe. At the moment, the university has developed a new group called the Health Advisory Group that advises the chancellor and all of the senior leadership at the university on the ways in which we can think carefully about making sure that the campus is a safe space for everyone. It is also a group that is monitoring very closely universal health rules and providing guidance in real time as those change so that the university can continue to fulfill its mission and continue to provide its quality of service and support to the student population. I wanted to bring your attention to a website where you and your families can find information related to everything connected to Pitt's resilience framework, and that is coronavirus.pitt.edu. If you visit that website, you will find a section for students with information that is being updated every single day. So we encourage you to check that website often for new information and details that will continue to be available in the coming weeks. There are several things, for example, that we are still working on as an institution. And so today we're going to try very hard to answer as many questions as possible. But I wanted you to be aware of certain projects that are still in development and let you know that in the coming weeks, as more information becomes available, you can expect to receive emails from us. And you can also expect to find this information in the coronavirus.pitt.edu website. Some of these projects include answers to questions about how we will bring students, faculty, and staff back to our campuses, and how we will live and work together during this pandemic. A lot of you have questions about Flex at Pitt and the new instructional model that takes a hybrid approach to providing your educational experience. We are still working on a lot of those questions, and we'll provide more information about this project in the next couple of weeks. You can also expect more detailed information about our plans for virus testing, symptom monitoring, quarantining, and contact tracing, as well as accommodations for vulnerable populations and alternative methods of enrollment. Today, we're talking about this last point. We have been working very hard over the past few months to make sure that we have developed new options for international undergraduate students to begin or to continue their course of study at Pitt, understanding that you are all facing new challenges. We know that for some of you, visa delays are a problem. A lot of you are also struggling with the possibility of not being able to travel to the United States, given travel restrictions or challenges procuring airfare. And so what we have done is provide you with different options to enroll in the fall term that allow you to make decisions regarding your health and your safety. And that is the email that you received from us that talks to you about the different options that are available to you. So what we're going to do today is introduce you to our panel of experts who are here to answer your questions and address your concerns. We assume that you have had the opportunity to read the email that we sent you carefully, that you've also had the time to visit our website and get more information about each of the enrollment options that are available to you. And so we won't take more time today to talk through that. Instead, what we're going to do is encourage Katie to moderate our conversation, to address questions that you have shared with us either ahead of time or that you are sharing with us now in the Q&A. And we will all be here to address your concerns as best we can within the time that's been allotted for this session. We thank you again for your participation. We encourage you one more time to include your questions in the Q&A section. And we remind you that we are recording this session and it will be available on our website later this week, should you want to come back and refer to it. Thank you, Katie, for the opportunity to moderate and to be with us today.
Thank you. So as Belkys mentioned, my name is Katie Von Lehman. I am from the Office of International Services, and I will be asking our panelists your questions today, along with Channy Chen, who is here from the Office of Admission and Financial Aid, who will be helping us by translating some of your questions into English so that we will be able to answer them. Just so that you know, as today's session is being recorded, I also wanted to let you know that we will not, unfortunately, be able to answer all of your questions within the hour time that we have. So what we are going to do is collect all of your questions, and we will add them to our frequently asked questions on our website that we have for undergrads to see their fall 2020 options. We hope to do that by the end of the week. So if your question does not get answered today, please check on the website by the end of the week, and hopefully we will have that information up there for you. So our first question today is for Delo Blough. The question is, I just read that the US government issued new guidance for international students for the fall 2020 semester. Can you tell me how that guidance might affect me?
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be with you today. Thanks for joining us. As Katie said, my name is Delo, Blough. I'm the Director of the Office of International Services, and I will be here to answer any immigration questions you might have today. So the first question, which I know is on many of your minds regarding the guidance that was just released, is a really tricky one, largely because it just came out, so we haven't had time to really study it or receive additional guidance about the options. But I will tell you what I believe are the issues you might face and what we think the answers are. First of all, any student that is within the United States will be required to register for the in-person option of classes. This does not mean that all of your classes will have to be in person, but you are required to be in person to the extent possible. If your classes are in-person and or hybrid courses, which means a mix of in-person and online courses, you will be able to keep and maintain your SEVIS record with no issues as we see it. Now, someone did ask what happens if the university then goes to completely online in the middle of the semester, and unfortunately this guidance does say that if that happens, students would not be permitted to remain in the United States while we are on a completely online semester. So we'll have to keep paying attention to that, but right now that's the guidance that we've got. The PIT on location option is the option that we see from outside the US that provides the greatest protection for continuing students' I-20 and SEVIS records. With this option, we will be arguing that a continuing student's I-20 should be maintained and continue to be active, which would work the same way as a normal study abroad program will work. We are seeking additional guidance from the government before we can make that as a positive promise, but that's what we're hoping for on that. Unfortunately, any student who is taking classes remotely will not be permitted to either obtain or maintain their SEVIS I-20 record. This includes anyone who opts to defer to another semester if you're an incoming student or continuing student who might take a leave of absence. The one other piece of information that you should keep in mind when you're looking at your option is the idea of eligibility for OPT and CPT, and this is going to affect continuing students more than it affects new students. As you probably know, OPT and CPT are only available to a student who graduates after they have been enrolled in full-time courses for one full academic year. Historically, the reality has been that the clock on that requirement resets with every new I-20. So if you cannot be present in the US in the fall 2020 semester, and you're going to need a new I-20 in order to return either in the spring or next fall, that OPT CPT clock would reset when you re-enter the country on that I-20. So for those of you who are fairly near to graduation, you're going to want to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Delo. So you mentioned PIT on location, and this question goes to Jeff Whitehead. There have been some questions about what courses are offered at the university because of different majors or lab requirements. Can you explain a little bit more about the options available?
I sure can. Earlier this week and last week, I've been communicating with a lot of you, and it's nice to see some recognizable names in the chat and on the guest list. So welcome, everyone. I am Jeff, the Director of Study Abroad and helping with the PIT on Location program. And we have built the course list. And as people have been contacting us at abroad at pit.edu, I've been sending that to everyone. Each program has a finite, but we think halfway decent list of courses. And so students will choose, all of you will choose one of those options. And they are a pretty big range of options depending on where you are and where you want to go. The ones that are most robust are the ones that partner with host institutions as well as offering things on their own locations, like the CET program in Beijing, which partners with Capital Normal, the CET program in Shanghai, which partners with Donghua, and the Education Abroad Network in Shanghai, which has a loose partnership with Fudan University. So those will actually have the largest number of offerings. The CET programs actually do allow you to enroll directly into some of the courses at CNU and at Danghua. The only catch that we have so far is that none of the institutional partners that our normal study abroad program providers are working with have determined whether or not they will be in person in the fall. They are still all also working on their schedules and determining what they will be doing. And so we can't yet guarantee that every course will be taught in person. That's the hope. And so what we are doing is planning as if all of the institutions will be opening back up in some form and fashion, and we'll be moving people to some of those locations. For those of you who are freshmen or first-year students, you do have the option of going to Pitt's partnership with Sichuan University called the Scoopy, and that also has a range of options that are built from actual Pitt courses, which carry actual Pitt course numbers. Dovetailing on the question that Katie just asked me, I have had a lot of questions on how the GPA will work, whether the courses will actually count toward the Pitt's GPA. And the answer to that is it will work the way that it normally works for anyone who is doing one of our partner program providers on study abroad. And that is that we will have transfer of the credit to the Pitt transcript as pass-fail. But we will then collect the transcript from the host partner and host institution that then follows you along with your Pitt transcript. And so when you are applying to graduate schools and if it comes up in conversation for jobs, you'll actually have both documents. One from Pitt that says, yes, you did just fine on your study abroad program, or on this, in this particular case, the on-location program, and then the actual transcript from the partner provider that shows your grades. So it's not that you won't be graded for the time that you are spending abroad, it's that you'll have two documents, one at Pitt that suggests that we have taken all of the credit that you will be transferring, and then another from the host provider that has the actual letter grades or numerical grades, depending on where you are for the time that you spent on location.
Great, thank you, Drew. Belkys, can you please explain if a student starts their classes in person at the University of Pittsburgh, but then they choose to go all online. So the student decides that they want to switch to the online option. Are they able to do so?
So thank you, Katie, for that question. It's a complicated question because of the new immigration guidance that we received overnight, right? So technically, a student can make that decision if they are on our Pitt campus and participating in the Flex at Pitt program. The Flex at Pitt program is a hybrid instructional model that the university is currently building to allow faculty and students the flexibility to meet and continue their work both in person and remotely online according to the needs of the student and the faculty member. That means that if a course is offered by a faculty member and it has an online option, the student and the faculty member can have a conversation about whether and the degree to which the student prefers not to participate in person. However, we're going to caution you, as Delo mentioned earlier, that we will be releasing more guidance to you soon about the immigration regulations, and we're going to have to be very careful about the changing of status once a student is in the United States, because it may affect your ability to remain in the United States.
Thank you. So this question is for Lauren Panetti. What if a new student chooses to defer their admission to the spring? Is there going to be an orientation, and what does that process look like?
Good morning or good evening to some. As Katie said, my name is Lauren Panetti. I'm the Associate Director of International Recruitment from the Office of Admissions and Financial Aid. And I work with new incoming students, whether freshmen or transfer students coming from another college or university. And I can help with any questions about deferring admissions. And again, that's only for new incoming students. So students can defer their admissions to the spring 2021 or fall 2021 term. There is a formal process that requires filling out an online form and a review from our office. And I did see this question in the Q&A. It does not require a student to reapply. You just have to submit an online form, and then we'll give you an answer typically within 2 weeks, and it is guaranteed. So you will have that spot secured for you, whether you defer for the spring or fall. So those students who are choosing, it's the best option for them to start a little later. For the spring, there will be orientation. They'll typically is a one-day orientation for the new incoming students. And then the Office of International Services will, of course, have an orientation. Those details are still being worked out and finalized, and we'll begin planning that more once this semester starts. And we'll have those finalized details to the students starting in the spring, sometime in October or November.
Thank you, Lauren. Delo, can you please explain how the process would work for a continuing student who decides to take off the fall term?
Sure. What you would need to do is simply not register for classes in person in the fall, and that will delay your attendance. If you do it for fewer than, or for no more than 2 semesters, that's all you'll need to do. Except that you then also need to notify OIS and complete in your MyPIT online service that you have a, Katie, help me out. What's the name of the form they need to complete?
The departure notification.
Thank you. Sorry, my mind went a little bit blank there. So you'll complete a departure notification, and that is for OIS so that we know what to do with your SEVIS record.
All right. So the next question is for Marian, Vanek. And the question is, if I travel to the United States, I've heard that I need to quarantine. Can you please explain what that entails?
Sure. Good morning, afternoon, evening. Very happy to be here. Again, my name is Marian Vanek. I'm the Executive Director of the Wellness Center. And I'm very happy to answer any questions you have related to health and wellness programs here at the university. In regard to a quarantine requirement, actually this is a requirement that the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, has implemented for all international travel, even US citizens. Upon entry into the United States, all international travelers are required to complete a 14-day quarantine. And basically what that means is you are to stay at home or in your apartment or in your resident hall room for at least 14 days. You obviously can take classes online during that period, during that short period, but you are not to interact much with others. You are to monitor your health during the 14 days, and if there is any symptoms that may present, we will be in touch with you as your healthcare provider here on campus and assist you and provide any care that might be needed. I hope that answers your questions.
Yes, thank you. So that is what can be expected when people come into the United States from traveling internationally. One of the questions that we also received was the likelihood that they'll be able to travel into the United States. Delo, can you speak to that a little?
Sure. At this point, as you probably know, all U.S. embassies are closed for routine visas, and we have not gotten any advice as to when those might begin to open. We're continuing to monitor that. I know that some of you have been successful in getting visa appointments, but what we're hearing is that those appointments, once they are closer to the time when they're happening, are continued. So we haven't heard of any student who's actually been able to go in and get a visa at this point. And we don't know when that's likely to happen. The other difficulty is that there continues to be travel bans depending on what country you're from, so that even if you are successful in getting a visa, if you are coming from those countries, you would not be able to enter the US until you have been in a third country for at least 14 days. So the likelihood of getting here within the next month is pretty dim. And we unfortunately just can't give a whole lot of advice beyond that. We just don't know what's going to happen. And it remains to be seen when embassies begin to open and whether or not travel bans begin to be lifted, or your availability to go to a third country. Just so that everyone knows, the affected countries on the travel bans right now are Brazil, China, Iran, the European Schengen area. There are 26 countries there, and I won't list them all, and the Republic of Ireland and the United Kingdom. So if you're from any of those countries, you would have to go to a third country, even if, and this is for continuing students too, if you already have a visa, you will need to go to a third country, remain there for 14 days, and then enter the US on your active visa. Then once you get to the US, you're still subject to that 14-day self-quarantine.
Thank you. So as people are making their plans based upon all these travel restrictions, we have the survey that asks them to let us know what their plans are. Steve, if you could answer this question, if I need to answer whether I will be staying on campus by July 10th and cases rise in Pittsburgh, will I be able to change to another option by August 10th?
Thanks, Katie. Didn't want to start there and be on mute. Hello, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Hope you're doing well. As Katie mentioned, my name is Steve Anderson, and I serve as the Associate Dean of Students and Director of Residence Life. Yes, students can change their option. I'll put a link over in the chat to the housing frequently asked questions and also to their website with their email address if somebody needs to change their housing. They should do so and reach out. If you are a student that already has on-campus housing, there was an email sent out by Panther Central, and they are asking for a selection of a meal plan by July 10th. Obviously, if you know your plans and you know your plans are involving not coming to Pitt for fall semester, please let them know, and then they will process any refunds. I saw a couple questions about refunds for their housing deposit, etc. I also had a question, Katie, about if I'm not here in person in fall, but I'm coming for spring. If you have the housing guarantee, then our Panther Central will allow that to be passed forward to the spring semester. You'll see that in the FAQ if you're taking classes online. If you defer, then you will also be allowed to do that guarantee. So I think I would just tell people to look on those FAQs and to email Panther Central if there are specific questions that we don't get to today or that you don't see in the FAQ from this webinar. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you. So we have a couple questions, Jeff, about remote learning abroad. One question was, can I be a part-time student if I'm doing remote learning abroad? And another was asking if you could just explain a little bit more about the programs in Pitt in London, Pitt in Sydney, and Pitt in Florence.
Sure. So the answer to the first question is, as long as it is okay with all of your OIS visa materials, then yes, you can do the remote learning abroad part-time. Those are really based on the rules that are set by the feds. And so you'll want to work with your contacts at OIS to determine whether that can work for you based on where you are and the rules that you're obliged to follow. What we've done is, and this will be the same for our domestic students who would normally be participating on our study abroad programs in the fall, all of which are now no longer happening in person. And so we have worked with our partner providers in our anchor locations in Florence, Sydney, and London. And we have made all of those courses available, and the lists are already on the website for this one. This was the one that was finished first. For students who are interested in availing themselves of online options that our normal study abroad students, including some of yourselves, a lot of international students actually do participate in study abroad on these same programs. So what we've done is we've digitized these with our partner, and we're allowing you to avail yourselves of them in the time zones that they would actually be happening. And so courses taught in London would be taught on British time, courses taught in Sydney taught on Australian time, respectively, to hopefully help have you be able to have a little bit more flexibility in terms of how you're taking your classes and when. Now, that was an easier prospect until we got the news yesterday on what the federal government is requiring of its students, and so of international students. And so it remains to be seen, once we have some clarification on how we're able to operate, as to whether or not international students will be able to participate, because these are 100% online. And we will not have any students participating on these in person in the fall.
Thank you. Belkys, here are a couple questions about the Flex at Pitt. How is Flex at Pitt going to work? Are there going to be recorded versions of classes? How are they going to take attendance? And is it something that is standardized, or does it depend on each class?
Thanks for the question, Katie. I'd like to say a few things about Flex at Pitt. The first is that given the new regulations that we received yesterday, we are going to be working over the next few weeks to try and make sure that we have a Flex at Pitt option that is hybrid and available to students who are in person in the United States. That option means that depending on the professor and each class that you enroll in, your experience, your educational experience may vary or may be different. So it may be that one professor decides that she's going to teach her class completely online, and it may be that another professor decides that he is going to offer classes in person once a week, and then the rest of the time happen online. This will happen, this decision will be made by every professor. And so we're going to encourage you to please contact your academic advisor, who can give you more information about which classes will be offered either in hybrid or fully online or fully in person, so that you can make the best decision possible if you are in person in the United States participating in Flex at Pitt. That option will also allow faculty to record their lectures, so that you can in fact revisit lectures after class. The idea is that faculty are trying very hard to make sure that when they meet in person with students, that they have the opportunity to help with homework, to answer questions, to have conversations with students, and that the lectures would be available via recording whenever possible. We are also then trying to find a new option, and some of this is already available to you on our website, for Flex at Pitt if you are participating from around the world and not in person. So the Flex at Pitt abroad option will be fully online. And so what that means is that you will be able to select courses that are offered by our faculty in such a way that you can either participate in real time, meaning synchronous. That is, you know, the faculty member offers their class at 8 a.m. here, Pittsburgh time, and you can access it at whatever time that is in your home country, as well as have access to recorded lectures and all of the other materials online. We will be using Canvas as the learning management system, where you can access your courses, reach your faculty member, get all of the recorded lectures and other reading materials. That Flex at Pitt option abroad will be fully online. I'd also like to take the opportunity, because I've been seeing some of these questions in the Q&A, to answer a few questions that folks are asking about combining options. So the idea about giving you various options is to make sure that you can select the one that is right for you. But we are asking you to make one choice. So you either choose to come in person, and you have to make that choice by July 10. That deadline has not changed. As Steve mentioned, if you are coming in person and you need housing on campus, we need you to tell us by July 10. That deadline is still the same. However, if you want to come in person but you will be living off campus, you still have until August 10 to tell us that. You also have until August 10 to make your decision about every other option: flex at Pitt abroad, remote learning abroad, and deferral as well, okay? All of those options, we need you to tell us via the survey that we sent you by August 10, okay? Some of you are asking about the enrollment process, and so I just want to give a little bit more information about that. As soon as you confirm your selection via the survey, you will be contacted by the appropriate office at Pitt to help you with your next steps. For example, if you tell us that you're interested in the Pitt on location option, the Office of Study Abroad, Jeff and folks on his team, will be contacting you about enrollment to the Pitt on location option that is right for you, and they will assign you an advisor in the Pitt Study Abroad office that will work with you to select your courses, to select your housing options if you need it, where you are in the world, and to continue helping you throughout the semester as you continue your education through a Pitt on location program. So it is very important that you complete the survey by the deadlines, because we use that survey to continue to communicate with you once we know what decision you have selected. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, thank you. Delo, can you talk a little bit about how visas would be impacted by the different decisions? So if they already have a visa, or if their visa expires while they're doing these different options?
Right, okay, thank you. So if you have a visa that is valid, let's say for 4 or 5 years, even if you take a leave of absence, and this is for continuing students, obviously, if you take a leave of absence and you are gone from the US more than 5 months, we will need to issue you a new I-20. However, you do not need to get a new visa at that time. You would need to pay a new SEVIS fee, but you would use your new I-20 with your continuing visa. If your visa expires, you would have to renew your visa with that new I-20, the same as you would normally have to renew your visa. Does that answer the question, Katie?
Yes, thank you. I don't know if Jeff or Delo, you want to answer this, but the question came in of transfer students. When transfer students are looking at their options, many of our answers on the website talk about whether you're an incoming student or a continuing student. And so a transfer student is someone who is starting new at Pitt, but already has a SEVIS document. So how would their choices impact their immigration status?
Right. Thanks, Katie. I'll take that one. From an immigration point of view, when we say continuing student, we are talking about your SEVIS record. So if you did high school in the US, or if you took a year or 2 of undergrad classes somewhere else, and now you are coming to JMU, or I'm sorry, now you're coming to Pitt, you are a continuing student for immigration purposes. So most of the answers on the website would refer to you as a continuing student in that regard.
Okay, and Jeff, can you talk about what their academic options are as transfer students?
Sure, Katie. The only option that is not available is the option at Scoopy, which is only available for incoming first-year students. And so all of the others of the on-location programs are open to people who are transferring into Pitt. And we will have further application instructions very soon, this week or early next, as we're working with all of our partners. I am collecting right now all of the interest from both the survey as well as people who have contacted our office directly. And right now we're actually working on info sessions specific to each of those programs so that people who have expressed an interest in one or the other can learn more directly from the partners too. So we're hoping to have all of this happening in real time over the next 7 to 10 days.
And Jeff, I want to chime in here because there have been some questions in the Q&A about Scoopy that are important. If you are a continuing student that is in engineering, there will be an option for you to participate in Scoopy programming. You have to contact your engineering advisor. The reason that we are not offering that as an option here is because that is only available to students who are already enrolled in engineering, are going to be in their 2nd or 3rd year of the program, and that program is managed directly by the School of Engineering. I will provide information in the chat, but you want to make sure that you contact the School of Engineering. It is very likely that they have already sent you an email. So please look at your email and make sure that if you received information from the University of Pittsburgh, any address that ends at pitt.edu in the email line, that you please read it carefully and that you respond, because they have been working very hard at engineering to make sure that 2nd year and 3rd year engineering students who are abroad have the option to continue their studies at Scoopy on a case-by-case basis. So please, again, if you're in the engineering school, please contact your advisor for help to ensure that you can continue your studies this fall.
For those of you who are engineers, I have actually been redirecting your Scoopy questions to my contacts in engineering. So rest assured, as you are contacting our office, I am vetting those to the appropriate places in engineering as well. So you should be hearing from us from a number of different directions. But generally speaking, we're hoping to have all of our formal application materials up within the next 7 days.
Thank you. And just a reminder, because Belkys mentioned this, please make sure that you are checking your official university email address. So I know that in our office, we've had some students who say that they haven't gotten information from us because they're only checking their informal alternate email and not their official Pitt University email address. Please make sure that you're looking at your official Pitt email address to get new information from the university. Jeff, I did want to ask you another question about how classes are chosen for students who are going to be doing the Pitt on location or remote learning abroad. How do students choose their classes, and do they randomly get assigned to a Pitt on location site, or do they get to choose that?
That's a good, both good questions. So the answer is going first, or going second rather. No, you choose the Pitt on location site. We won't be assigning one to you. The more information that you tell us, the more help we can provide in terms of the advising. And so I have very good contacts at all of the locations where we're going to be operating. And so as people are asking questions about what might be the best fit, where will the most classes in your major, minor, or general education requirements be happening, I'm actually asking those questions to our partners so that I can provide better advising. Everyone will be working with me through the initial selection phase, and then I have 2-3 people in my office to whom we will be assigning specific programs. And so what you will do then is have an advisor in my office to finish the mechanics of the course registration, course approval, and actual formal billing processes, exactly as you would if you were studying abroad on any of our normal programs. And so it's a little different than how the advising happens within your schools, because what happens in study abroad is you work directly with our office And then we help be the bridge to the individual advisors in schools so that we can actually help facilitate on your behalf, given the fact that we know the curriculum pretty well. So we'll be assigning advisors to these programs depending on where people are interested in going, again, over the same time period, over the next 7 to 10 days, so that we can make sure that you have a contact to do all of the course approval, course selection, registration, and then further out the billing offices.
And so, Jeff, I think this is a good moment to repeat this because this is very important. Students and parents should not be contacting our providers and should not be contacting our partner institutions. If you are interested in options abroad, you should be contacting Jeff Whitehead and the Office of Study Abroad. The email is abroad@pitt.edu. Because Jeff is the one that is negotiating the classes that are available to you as a Pitt student. Jeff is negotiating the ability to assign an advisor who can work with you personally, one-on-one, on your options. That advisor will be assigned to you for the rest of the semester to answer all of your questions and concerns. And so it is important that as a Pitt student, you work with Pitt Study Abroad to help you with the Pitt on location, the remote learning options.
And as many of you know, I recognize a lot of your names because I am actually pretty well caught up in real time. I haven't taken care of a couple of your questions from last night and yesterday, just based on the time fundamentals. But I am really staying up on it so that we can make sure that we're operating in real time with you to help you make the best decisions that you possibly can for your education in the fall. And there's two ghosts in the room with us, two names that you may see, but are not seeing their faces. And those are Tiffany Martin and Bryce Lynn. Those are actually two members of our team who are here to listen and here to be the backbone of how we actually support you. So those are members of our team whose names you'll get to know over these next few months as we continue building and continue to put all the details together for the on-location program. So rest assured, it's not just me. I have a full team behind me to help out once we get through this initial selection process.
Thank you, Jeff. Delo, can you talk about the students who are currently in the United States and what you would recommend for them as far as maintaining their immigration status and what their options are?
So the option for anyone who wants to remain in the United States must be in person at Pitt. And as I said before, that does not mean that every class has to be in person. That means that you choose your classes, and if you have the option, you take as many of them in person as possible. But if you have a mix of in-person and online classes, you should be fine with your visa status. Now, some of you have asked what happens if we go online in the middle of the semester, and unfortunately the new guidance does say that if that happens, you would need to leave the US immediately. At that point, then you would be able to continue with your classes from wherever you are in the world, but you would not be able to maintain, and we could maintain your CVIS record if we are completely online and you are somewhere else in the world and continue your full-time classes online. We can continue your CVIS record in that regard as well. It's just that you would need to leave the US as soon as you can after that decision was made.
Thank you. Steve, can you talk about the quarantine that students need to go through from a residence life perspective? If they are assigned a residence hall room, are they allowed to quarantine there, or do they have to go somewhere else?
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, and what I would say is it depends upon the date of arrival, but we are still working through that process. But our plan would be to allow students to quarantine if they're living on campus. Our residence halls open near the beginning of August, and so we would just need to coordinate arrival dates with our colleagues and friends over in OIS, and then work with our students to allow that quarantine period to happen.
Thank you. If a student is not able to arrive and they defer to spring, Lauren, and then you know, situations change, so they're no longer sure they can come for the spring term, what should they do to continue to defer for another semester?
Yeah, thanks, Katie. So for this unique year, we will allow the students who deferred to spring to submit another deferral form for the fall term. That is just for this year, and again, it can only be for one more term. So if it would have to go beyond that, we would require you to reapply since it's beyond a year. And again, you just have to resubmit that online deferral form.
Wonderful, thank you. There have been some questions about the Canvas system. Belkys, can you speak about how there are some concerns about how well the Canvas system works in other countries, specifically China, and whether or not there will be opportunities for students to test that before they make their decision?
Sure, thanks, Katie. As I mentioned earlier, if you select the Flex at Pitt abroad option, which means that you're participating in Flex at Pitt from where you are in the world right now, the University of Pittsburgh is using the Canvas learning management system as the online platform where all of your reading materials, your homework assignments, your communication with your students, your peers, and your faculty will happen. We are currently investigating because we do understand that there are challenges with folks accessing Canvas in certain locations around the world, including China. Our Pitt Information Technology, Pitt IT, is working on a solution to try and see if we can work with you to test your access to Canvas and to test your access to our VPN. We hope that one of those two options will allow you to access Canvas to participate in the Flex at Pitt option. That process of developing the test site and environment is currently in development. And so you can expect to hear from Pitt IT later in July or early August with a very detailed email with instructions on several things. One, how to get VPN access so that you can access desktops on campus, and so that you can have access to a computer and to the resources just as if you were accessing it from the library or from your dorm on campus. You will also get information about our task center. It is a set of online resources that Pitt IT is developing specifically for students who remain abroad this year, so that you have access to VPN software, your email account, a Canvas, and a series of other things, including online orientation and other resources that will be available to you abroad. We are working on developing all of that package of information and access, and you can expect to hear from Pitt IT in early August. No matter what decision you make, whichever enrollment option you select, you will get an email from Pitt IT with options for accessing and testing remote environments. They will also provide information about technical support and help desk access so that you can speak with a technician if you need help and assistance with VPN access, with testing Canvas, etc. So we are working on all of that, and you can expect to receive an email later in July or early August with very detailed information about all of these issues having to do with information technology.
Thank you. So the last question that we have time for is about students who are supposed to graduate in fall 2020. So the question is kind of in two parts. The first part is for academics. So if there are very specific classes that they need to take in order to graduate, will those classes be available on all the different options? And the second part for Delo is how will their immigration status be impacted if they graduate essentially abroad?
So on the academics, I'm going to encourage students to do two things. One, to check out the study abroad website that has the courses that are available, or to email abroad@pitt.edu with the exact list of courses that you need to complete. Jeff can answer those questions and can tell you what of that list of courses is available where, and if you can do it remotely. Then I would encourage you to do the second thing, which is reach out to your academic advisor and ask your academic advisor if those list of courses are going to be available via Flex at Pitt. That way you can make the most informed decision possible about your academic options. So contact Study Abroad, abroad@pitt.edu, and contact your academic advisor with the list of courses that you need to complete and ask them which courses will be offered in which option so that you can make the most informed decision possible.
And so from the immigration part of that question, while you are out of the country, you lose your immigration status here, which means that you would lose your ability to do OPT at the end of your graduation, which I know is important for a lot of you. In order to maintain the ability to do OPT, you would need to be here in person for the fall semester. It is possible that if you could finish out in a Pitt on location option, that we may be able to maintain your SEVIS status, but your best bet for OPT purposes is to be in person in the US.
All right, thank you everyone. So again, to all the participants today, we were not able to get to all of your questions because we do just have this hour. I would like to remind you that we're going to try to answer all of these questions and put them on the Fall 2020 Undergraduate page on OIS's website so that you can get the answers to your questions even though you may not have received them today. The other thing I would like to do is thank all of our panelists. They are wonderful resources for all of us. And if Belkys could put up their contact information again, you'll see their email addresses there. And you can always contact us with questions that you have. I know that OIS has received about 150 emails this morning just about the new announcement yesterday. And I imagine that that will only increase. So we understand that this is a very challenging time and that things can change, but we appreciate your flexibility. We are trying to be as flexible as we can possibly be. And please remember that we are doing everything that we can to support you because we really appreciate all of you as international students, and you are so valued as members of our community that we want to do everything we can to take care of you. Is there anything else that the panelists want to say before we finish?
Yes, there was a question that came through that is really important. If you have already submitted your response to the survey and you would like to change your response, yes, you can do that before July 10. So please feel free to go back to the survey link and change your option if you have made a different decision. We ask you to please do that as soon as possible, especially if your option is going to be in person with on-campus housing. That deadline is July 10. All the other options you can continue to think about and tell us what you think, but you need to make your final decision by August 10. On behalf of the entire panel and the University of Pittsburgh, we want to thank you for your continued interest and your Pitt pride. We are here to help and look forward to talking with you some more via email. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.